3 guys on the list who didn't show up, let's just follow this through. The members of the Black Robe Squad looked at each other with a gloating expression. Because according to the rules, if you get 2 major demerits, you will be expelled from the investigation squad. Is this how Zhang Yi wants to play on his first day? Bai Li Changqing, however, said in a deep voice, yes. Discipline is discipline. Once violated, there is no reason for it, and you will be punished. This is the iron law of soldiers. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly came from above. Hey, excuse me. Who's late? Zhang Yi's smile grew more and more obvious as he looked up at the top of his head. On the second floor of the training ground, 3 men looked down, each with defiance written all over their faces. This was contempt for the new captain, who they did not look upon favorably. Yo, you're Chaos, right? What a lame name. If you're going to imitate others and become the captain, at least don't make such elementary mistakes. You can't achieve anything by scaring people with a big demerit every now and then. The 2 people next to him also let out a mocking laugh. Zhang Yi was unmoved and continued to say to Bai Li Changqing, just do it according to the rules. Let's just say they were late. The 3 men's faces suddenly changed. They didn't expect Zhang Yi to be so bold. A foreigner from the outer city, new to the area, had shit luck and became the temporary captain. Yet he really dared to look down on them? Hey, what are you doing? Are we here? Yi, one of the 3, shouted down. I didn't see it, so it doesn't count, Zhang Yi said indifferently. You have 10 seconds to stand in front of me, or else you can forget about being in my team. A few bottom feeders in the Heavenly God Squad had the nerve to act like a smartass. If he didn't show them a thing or two about respect, they would never know who was the boss. The 3 men's faces turned extremely ugly. They had wanted to teach Zhang Yi a lesson, but Zhang Yi had gone too far. Zhang Yi looked at the plain Rolex on his hand and counted the movement of the second hand. The 3 of them did not dare to continue playing with fire. Xuemiao grabbed the arms of Yi He and Luinghao, and their entire bodies soared into the air, a whirlwind suddenly surrounding them. The 3 of them landed from a great height, safely landing in front of Zhang Yi and the others. Zhang Yi looked at the second hand and said with some regret, what a pity. Yi He and the others stared at Zhang Yi, and anyone could tell from their defiant expressions that they were not going to give up so easily. Yi crossed his arms and said to Zhang Yi, Chaos, you have a lot of authority, don't you? Ever since you took over, you've been bullying us. Very impressive. His words were full of sarcasm. He deliberately stressed the word chaos. He believed that people who chose such nicknames were all weaklings. The truly powerful should choose a majestic nickname like their captains. And Deng Shintong's exclusive nickname was Erlang Shenyang Jian. Zhang Yi looked coldly at the 3 people in front of him. This situation was completely within his expectations. The members of the Black Robe Squad didn't say anything, but they put on expressions as if they were enjoying a show. Although they knew that Zhang Yi was very strong, it was not enough to be a good captain. You also need to have the ability to control people. If Zhang Yi couldn't control these 3 people today, he could forget about leading them to surround and attack the Eclipse Moon in the future. Zhang Yi stared at the 3 people, his eyes cold like a sword. In the end, his eyes fell on Yi He. It was obvious that Yi He was the leader of these 3 people. If you take him down, the other 2 will also behave themselves. Did I tell you to speak? Zhang Yi did not yell like a normal instructor would, for fear of hurting his voice. He just said in a cold tone, next time, before you speak, yell, sir. You may only speak when I give you permission. Yi raised the corners of his mouth, sir. Shut up. Zhang Yi yelled angrily, interrupting him. Did I give you permission to speak? You. Yi was also furious. He didn't like Zhang Yi, who had been suddenly promoted to captain. Seeing that Zhang Yi was deliberately targeting him, he simply stopped pretending. What's the big deal? With someone like you as captain, I quit being a member of this bullshit investigation squad. Zhang Yi didn't even raise his eyelids. If you don't want to work anymore, you can just leave now. Anyway, with fewer people, he can ask old Zhu to replace him with some others. Yin Yunwei has a lot of people, so it shouldn't be difficult to find a few more experts. Xuemiao and Luinghao, however, had changed color and quickly took Yi He by the arm, persuading him, don't be impulsive. If you leave, you'll be falling into his trap. Even if we're leaving, we can't leave like this. Otherwise, we'll lose the reputation of the Heavenly God Squad, won't we? Xuemiao and Luinghao's family backgrounds were not comparable to Yi He's. Even if Yi He walked out of here, at the very least, his family could arrange for him to work in another position. But for Xuemiao and Luinghao, they were the pillars of their families. Once they were no longer members of the investigation squad, the quality of life for their entire family would be greatly reduced. Playing naked resignation is not for everyone. You need to know your own worth. Therefore, the 2 strongly discouraged Yi He from pushing it too far. They were only following Yi He's lead because they wanted to fight for more rights and benefits when they joined a new investigation team. When it came to the Heavenly God Squad, a look of pain flashed in Yi He's eyes. The glory of the past and the glorious and majestic figure of Deng Shintong emerged in his mind. At the moment, Deng Shintong and the other team members' bodies had not even cooled, and they were thrown away like trash and put into a mixed squad. How could Yi not be in pain? He even felt as if the region had abandoned him. Otherwise, why would they choose an outsider from an insignificant city as captain? The members of the black robe squad next to them were all watching with amusement. Yi gritted his teeth and made a decision in his heart. Even if he was to leave, he could not go like this, to avoid being a laughingstock in the future. So he pointed at Zhang Yi and said, "Hey, aren't you the captain of the Tengu squad? Let us see if you are qualified to be the captain right now." Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows. "Oh? Do I need you to tell me if I'm qualified or not? Who do you think you are? You don't try to win by words." Yi stared at Zhang Yi coldly and sneered, "Among the rules and regulations of the investigation team, there is one: the captain of the investigation squad must accept the challenge of a member of the squad, and if he loses, he will lose his position as captain. This challenge cannot be refused. Right now, I am still a member of the Tengu squad, so," the smile on the corner of his mouth grew even wider, "accept my challenge." Chaos. Zhang Yi was silent for a moment. He wasn't afraid, but he was a little confused. Is it true that people who have been in a large unit for a long time tend to become stupid? "You want to fight me?" Zhang Yi pointed at his nose and asked in disbelief. "No matter how weak I think you were personally appointed as captain by Xu Zheng, so even if you use your toes to think, it's obvious that you can't be weak, right?" Yi snorted. "Of course not. It wouldn't look good if I fight you alone. It'll be the three of us against you. Zhang Yi, do you dare to accept?" Upon hearing this, Bai Li Changqing and the others immediately showed an interested expression on their faces. They knew that Zhang Yi was very strong. But they didn't know just how strong Zhang Yi was. 3 members of the Heavenly God squad against Zhang Yi alone, this match would be very interesting. And Zhang Yi, would he accept? Bai Li Changqing frowned slightly, weighing in his heart as to whether he could win against these 3 if he were in Zhang Yi's shoes. And the answer he ultimately came up with was not very encouraging. The members of the investigation squad are all elites. One-on-one is okay, but if the 3 of them cooperate with each other, their strength will be mutually enhanced. As the vice-captain, Bai Li Changqing, unless he can restrain their abilities, there is no way he can defeat all 3 of them. Zhang Yi raised his eyelids and said indifferently, "If you want to die, I can grant you that wish. This battle is a battle to establish his authority, and he must fight. If I don't fight, it will be hard to lead the team in the future." A look of ecstasy appeared on the faces of the 3 men. They had never thought that Zhang Yi would actually dare to accept their challenge. Yi smiled sinisterly, "Fighting all 3 of us at the same time, that would require a captain-level mutant to fight us himself. But Zhang Yi doesn't really think that just because he's become captain, he has the strength of a captain, does he? This is like Bai Li Changqing, who initially became the captain of the Black Robe squad but was not given the respect he deserved. Position and strength are not completely linked." Zhang Yi turned around and retreated to the side of the training ground. He said indifferently, "Everyone else, leave the area first." The members of the Black Robe squad immediately left the training ground, and Liang Yu also left with Yang Xinxin. In the vast training ground, only Zhang Yi, Yi, and his 2 men were left. "My time is quite precious, so I won't bother going to the martial arts field. I'll just fight you guys here. Hurry up and finish so I can go home." Zhang Yi turned to look at them, his face expressionless. In fact, the 2 realms junction had already begun to unfold around him, forming a defense that left no gaps. Yi and the others glanced at each other. Yi lowered his voice and said, "The 3 of us fighting him alone will definitely be able to defeat him. If he loses, he will have no pride left to continue being the captain. By that time, we might have a chance to use the Tengu squad to turn the tables." Xue Miao frowned, "But we don't know anything about this guy. And he might have obtained our information through the higher-ups. This is a disadvantage for us." Yi said, "That's why I want 3 people to fight him. As long as the 3 of us work well together, we have a good chance of winning against anyone below the captain level." The 3 of them cheered each other on and were determined to defeat Zhang Yi here and regain their pride. Even if they were kicked out of the team, their reputation would still be good, which would make it easier for them to join other organizations. Zhang Yi watched the 3 of them whispering and discussing tactics, and a sneering smile rose at the corner of his mouth. "Shall we begin?" After the 3 had finished their discussion, their gazes locked onto him. "Do it." Yi growled. Lu Yinghao struck first. His 5 fingers were clenched together, and he stabbed Yi and Xue Miao in the waist. Poisonous Doctor, Lu Yinghao, trait system ability user. His bodily fluids can be turned into lethal poisons, or into potions that strengthen the body. As soon as the battle began, he injected his 2 companions with adrenaline, to increase their physical alertness, which greatly enhanced their mobility and even improved their senses by several levels. And of course, he himself was also maximally enhanced. After being enhanced, Xue Miao pulled a dagger with a bluish glow from his tactical backpack. A raging whirlwind sprang up around his body, enveloping the 3 of them. Zhang Yi, however, did not move at all and even leisurely pulled out his 2 silver pistols, the White Eagle, from dimensional space. After thinking for a moment, he loaded them with holy silver bullets. Just as he was reloading his bullets, a gust of wind rushed towards him, and the entire training ground was filled with madness. The surging air currents even had a huge impact on his vision. Xue Miao took advantage of the wind and arrived in front of Zhang Yi in an instant. Xue Miao, an ability user who has released the department, has the ability code Wind Runner and can manipulate the power of the storm. He is good at assassinations. In an instant, with the help of the gusty wind, he reached the back of Zhang Yi. The dagger in his hand, glowing with blue light, stabbed fiercely at the back of Zhang Yi's neck. Zhang Yi didn't seem to notice, and without even turning his head, he didn't make any reactionary movements. But the next moment, the dagger stabbed into a void, and the tip of the dagger suddenly disappeared into the air. Ha! Xue Miao's pupils suddenly contracted, and he sensed the danger. But his movements were too fast, and his entire right arm had already disappeared into Zhang Yi's dimensional space. Oh no! Xue Miao was shocked, and hurriedly tried to pull away. Although he didn't know what Zhang Yi's ability was, his intuition told him that if he entered that strange space, his ending would be very miserable. But at this moment, a black muzzle was aimed at his head. Zhang Yi didn't even turn his head, and after the huge muzzle of the white eagle was aimed at his head, he didn't hesitate to pull the trigger. Damn it! Xue Miao gritted his teeth, and the howling wind around him intensified. His figure disappeared in an instant, and when he reappeared, he was already tens of meters away. Bang! The sound of the gunshot echoed through the training ground, and the bullet hit the opposite wall, sending sparks flying. Xue Miao's eyes showed a cautious expression. Space ability? I can't even get close to attack, so how am I going to fight? He was an assassin, and his speed and strange body movements were his most advantageous weapons for killing with one strike. However, Zhang Yi was particularly good at restraining this. His defense must have a flaw. I must find his flaw first. Xue Miao thought.